So, to go off of your trench warfare analogy here, who do you think is advancing slightly now?
Well, you'd have to say, looking at the full spectrum of what occurred since January 6th, the government has been advancing with occasional setbacks, um, and the former president has not prevailed in a definitive way in any of these cases, but that we're not at the final juncture yet. So, he lost the Vance case in the Supreme Court fighting over his business records from, the district attorney in Manhattan. Um, he won, in my view, the case against the Congress for those same records. At least the courts trimmed back the subpoenas. Um, he lost the case against the National Archives for his records to the January 6th committee. But along the way, there have been victories. While it's not his case, he could benefit from the 1512 examination by the Supreme Court because he's been charged. If that went away because the court ruled that statute didn't apply, that'd be a major advance for him.
We aren't at the final juncture yet, as you noted, but you did such a great job in November breaking down Minnesota's ruling for us. You did a great job now breaking down Colorado's ruling. And I'm curious because, once again, you are the expert. What do you think is missing from this national conversation?
Um, well, I think it's hard for the public to follow all of this, um, because it's so fact and law intense and in so many different forums. There are these cases in the state courts. There's the prosecution in Washington. There's the prosecution in Florida. There's the state case in Georgia. And so we're really in a legal landscape that is, for lay people, very hard to follow. Even for a lot of lawyers, it's hard to follow. Uh, Lawyers that don't practice in any of these areas. And I think that's putting tremendous stress on the legal system and tremendous uh, expectations on judges, um, and on the judicial system, some of which they may not be up to. Because remember, I think it was Madison who said, the Supreme Court is the least dangerous branch. Why? They don't have an army and navy. They can't appropriate money. They have their robes, and what they have is public acceptance of what they do. So when you look at this case and you think about that, while they're not supposed to make political decisions, they have to be sensitive to the limits of their own authority and the public's willingness to accept what they do. That was the problem with Bush v. Gore. It was a 5-4 decision that sowed incredible discontent with the court, quote, looking political. Well, that risk is magnified by multiples in this case. So something else operating on the court internally, I think, will be a bit of trepidation about how far and how fast they should go with any of this.
Regardless of the way the court rules, do you think there's any way that it won't look political?
No, to a certain segment of the population, increasing our polarization, just as with the Dobbs decision, just as with some of the other decisions, one side will say they're political, the other side will say they're following the rule of law. And so they have become embroiled, not necessarily through their own fault, but they become embroiled in the political debate. And so I don't know how they escape that. I think it'll depend a little bit on how they handle these cases.
Once again, I really appreciate you joining me, breaking this down, navigating what you described even as a very tough legal moment. So, Stan Brand, thank you for joining me.
My pleasure.